Hello, I'm Jacqueline Holstead, and you are listening to On Point Conversations. In this podcast series, we share creative marketing, content, and branding strategies that help your business successfully navigate the new normal marketing environment. In today's podcast, I'm going to be talking about content strategy and connections. Because when we're putting together a content strategy, and we're planning a content strategy, we're looking at all the content that's going to go into a product or service to promote it and to connect with the audience that's best suited for buying that particular service or product. So the planning is really more encompassing, and it's not a once-a-year thing. It's not even every 6 months. What I like to do is plan 3 months out, but for my clients, I review every week and even every day, depending on what's happening in the world around us, because we want to be sure that we're relevant to what's going on. And if there's some piece of content that is not correct for that time, then that can be pulled and turned and moved to another time or revised for something else. So while I used to use content schedulers, I do that, and then I still look before a post goes out, before an article is dispersed, so that we can be sure that, we're politically correct, that we're in the right atmosphere, and we're not talking like we don't understand what's going on in the world today. One of the things that happens, and it's a little bit messy because we're taking content and we're plugging it into different places. The first thing I want to do before you even do the content strategy is, why are you creating the content? And who are you creating it for? What are you creating? Where are you going to put it? And when are you going to put it there? So there's a whole variety of things that goes around when you develop the content strategy to make your content stronger. You can just develop a piece of content, plop it into different social media and say, well, I've got content. But unless it comes together like a story, even if it's coming in different forms, in different mediums, it comes together branded for one, so it looks like you and it sounds like you and it is your company. And then also that it has the same tone and manner and kind of message in order to keep moving forward for your company and to be looking at your company as a positive influence in the content area. I don't want people to turn you off or turn my clients away and say, oh, it's just another thing they're telling me. And it's important to remember that content should be connections. It should be connecting with your audience. So you're not going out as you would see somebody on a street corner. You've probably seen this in bigger cities. Someone's on the street corner yelling a message. Now, some people will stop and look. I don't think that's effective. I don't want you to do that. But I'm telling you that because it's sort of like that when you take a piece of content and you just shout it out to the world and you shout it as loud as you can. You can come across as being obnoxious. You can come across as nobody's going to listen. You can come across as, well, maybe somebody will stop, but is that the right audience? So there are all kinds of things that go into a very good content strategy and also one that's valuable to you. So you're not creating it to spend money just to spend money. One of the areas, and this is just one area of it, but really when you're doing this, you're wanting to create a connection because that's what we're able to produce or have an audience that thinks about us, that we don't have to be in every place every time because we have a more loyal following. I don't think you're ever going to get a real loyal following, but you will get a following. And connections are based on communicating together. So let's say that you go to a party or a get-together and you stand in the corner and someone comes up to you and says, what does your company do? And you stand at them and blankly not say a word. Well, the person who's come up to you at that time is going to, number one, feel disrespected. Two, they're not going to ask you again what you do. They're going to go away. They could go away angry. They could go away frustrated. They could just go away and you won't have them anymore. So that is a kind of feeling you should keep in mind when, let's say, you put up an Instagram post. Someone asks you a question on the Instagram post and you never bother responding. What you've basically done is done what that person at the party did. You've let someone ask you a question, try to connect with you, and then you've just stared at them and said nothing. You might have even walked away. So I see this quite often, and it's a frustration of mine, and I think it's something that really needs to be thought about because you're putting time, effort, and money and resources into these different types of social media with your content, and you have a strategy. That is the area then that shouldn't be the weakest link. Either answering your emails, if you're asking people to email you, answering your emails within a 24-hour period. There should really be no excuse for not getting back to them. I know I get lots of junk emails, but every day, more toward the end of the day, I review all my junk email just to make sure that a junk email hasn't gone into that folder that really isn't junk email. I also review all my emails per day. Now, this is also something you'll want to think about when you're posting. It can be a bit of a detail, but it's important. Use the best email and use the email that you will actually look at and respond to. Now, you will get most likely you will get all kinds of junk mail and things. You don't need to respond to those, but you need to see them, and you do need to respond to those people who are asking you questions. So, for example, this came up recently. I work with a particular company. They have beautiful Instagram posts. They spend time, money, and energy on doing posts that are visually appealing, very nice appealing. And this particular company is a brick and mortar store. So they're basically opening up again. And it's important now, more than ever even, to keep your community engaged. So there was a tour that was going around Maker's Market, and this particular post was about the Maker's Market and a contest they were having. So I sent a question to ask about the contest. How does the contest work? Do we have to be in the store to apply for the contest? How are the people selected for the contest? I'd like to know, even though I'm going to go by probably the store anyway. Nothing was said. Crickets. Crickets, crickets, crickets. And I know this store, and I like this store. So I went back in the store. I thought, well, this is a one-time thing. Just recently, the exact same thing happened. They had an event in their store. Instagram post wasn't exactly clear what they meant. I had a question. I put a comment, and this is an Instagram. Again, crickets. The only person who responded was someone who was looking at the post, and they responded with an answer that wasn't related really to the question. It was part of the question, but it wasn't really the question about what the shop was doing and a few things, other little details about that. So again, the idea for anything you do on content is to connect. Even if you have people willing and able and they're sending you questions or they're responding and they're trying to get through to you, don't just do crickets. Because the silence is not golden in this particular case. The silence is frustrating, disrespectful. It's going to make someone frustrated, angry, or just plain walk away. None of those responses that are what you want when you're building and having a business. The other thing that I'm noticing also in some of the posts also is that there's a lack of customer service responding. But today I'm actually just going to stick on the subject of content strategies, more social media, because that's where you get more questions from. When I do a content post, a blog post, I will include sometimes a question or something where I feel it might be able to connect with somebody and have them answer it. If that's the case, I feel like that's a golden opportunity for me to respond. I also would suggest that when you get comments on either Instagram or Facebook or any of the social media that you respond to and you like the comment, put a heart by it, put a thumbs up by it, something that says, I've looked at it, I'm communicating with you, I'm here, and then maybe add something else, because we spend so much time, money, and resources in trying to build those connections with people. Now, I was talking to a yoga studio this week because I'm going to start having interviews on my podcast. And I want to talk about community and building community. It's another part of the content strategy is how do you build your community, particularly when you're trying to build it from scratch, or maybe you have a community, but you're now wanting to expand that community, because we have the option now of, we've had it for some time, but really of connecting with our audiences all over the world. Not just, 10 miles from our house or 20 or 30, but all over. And Zoom has gotten better over this last couple of years. They've really done a lot better job. I'm sure there are other types of products and applications like that. I concentrate on one just because once I learn that one, it's nice to stay with something But I have clients who use other forms of Medium to connect with their customers and their particular audience, which is fine, as long as your customers are in tune with that particular application and will use that application. So again, this whole message today is on connection and understanding how important that connection is. And even though you might feel, well, I am just putting this out. Yes, I'm getting all these people saying, oh, great job, good job, whatever. That's great. And I'm happy for you. And you can make your heart by that or your thumbs up or whatever. But actually trying again to engage with that audience, one of the things we try to do in content strategy is provide more show and tell types of things. How do they use your product? How do they use it in different ways? How do other users who aren't part of your company use your product? I've talked about this one before because I'm a knitter. So there is a community called Ravelry. And over the years, I've watched it grow and grow. And designers will put their patterns, and then there's their yarn, what they recommend for yarn for a particular pattern on Ravelry. You can purchase the pattern, leave it on Ravelry in your library, and then you can communicate with the designer. So you can get on their site, they're part of that Ravelry connection, and send them a message. And I have had designers respond within the same day. I have had some designers never respond, and I've had some designers respond 3 to 4 weeks later. Now, I could ask you, who do you think I connect better with? I connect better with the designer who has made an effort to answer my question more quickly, particularly because I'm in the middle probably of knitting something and I don't want to stop and wait 3 to 4 weeks for that designer to decide that they're going to answer the question, or again, crickets, decide that they're not going to answer the question at all. And part of that I know is time, but you have to make time. Because if you're spending the time and the money and the resources to put the content out, it's really important to spend the time, money, and resources to connect. You will also see that probably you could get a negative comment. If you can answer that comment positively, don't engage with somebody who's just giving you a negative comment. But if you can engage, if you can correct them, if you can help them out, you are going to look way better and way better in your community when you have that kind of interaction. So I'm going to leave you with that thought today. Have you been posting and letting your customers have crickets when they ask a question? Or letting them make comments that you feel good about, but you don't say anything because you're not responding? Or are you connecting? And how is that working for you? How is your connection working when you do that? I would love to hear from you. You can reach me at contact me on my website, which is onpointthinking.com. I'm Jacqueline Holstead, and I look forward to your comments. Let me know what you found or haven't found, or reasons why you might say, I can't respond to all these, and what do I do, and how do I pare this down? So maybe you're not in as many places at one time, so you have time, or you have a resource. You're hiring